What I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about two things today I think are very important to all of us, regardless of our political affiliation. So if you're a Republican, a Democrat, an Independent, a Tea Party, it doesn't matter. Two things we'd like to talk about. Number one is the safety and security of the citizens of the United States. And number two, good paying jobs in Ohio. In a year, our firefighters will receive, this year will receive more than 25 million calls. That's a call every 1.2 seconds. Since we've had lunch, there's been 1,500 calls for urgent help. Okay? This year, there'll be 1,400,000 fires. And that's only less than 25% of what these first responders do. They also go to every accident in your automobile to make sure if someone needs to be removed from that vehicle or your vehicle doesn't catch on fire. They also respond to medical emergencies. So if the ambulance has an issue or they can't get through the door, the firefighters will get you through that door. Okay? Or they'll create a door to get you the hell out. Okay? Lastly, when you think about what they do, they respond to natural disasters. So what is the state of our industry today? How are we doing? Well, what's interesting is 50% of the equipment that our firefighters respond to is more than 15 years old. 25% of the equipment is more than 20 years old. Does everybody remember Chevy Lumina? That's the equivalent model of car that our firefighters are responding to fires in. Equivalent to a Chevy Lumina. What's more is firefighters and first responders, on average, 3/4 of them are wearing something of personal protection that's more than 10 years old. Okay. This year, more than 3,300 people will still perish in fires. That is far too many for this great nation and far too many for the security of our nation. So we ask, as part one of today's presentation, that you understand the Fire Fund grant and the importance that those grants are to our firefighters and first responders as it relates to funding so that they have the proper equipment.
Why are the grants critical to the public? Well, the Fire Grant Program was created in 2000 to improve the baseline capabilities of career, volunteer, and combination fire departments. The program uses a merit-based peer review process to deliver matching funds and equipment, training, and fire prevention programs. The program also supports important research for improving both safety for firefighters and the general public. The SAFER Grant Program was created in 2003 to improve baseline staffing of career, combination, and volunteer departments. The program allows for career and combination departments to hire firefighters over a 5-year period with an escalating match requirement, and allows volunteer fire departments to set up recruitment and retention programs. Both these programs have been successful in improving the nation's ability to respond to all hazards, including acts of terrorism, natural disasters, local house fires, and auto accidents. In 2007, the Office of Management and Budget found that the American Fire Act grant program was effective and gave it a 100% score for program management and program results and accountability. That's not heard of very often in this industry.
In the 70s, there was a book written called America Burning. And America Burning sort of outlined how much in trouble our first responders were and the emergency services of the United States were. We were very poorly equipped. We had aging equipment, sounds like just what he talked about, but it was even worse then. And we had all types of issues with equipment, trucks, PPE, anything you can imagine sort of didn't work. So in the 80s, there was a congressman who tried to start to push for some type of recognition of this program. And lo and behold, by the year 2000, before 9/11, the first Fire Act grant program was created. It was a 5-year program. There was a relatively small amount of money. The first year in 2000, $100 million were set up for funding grants for the fire service. Now, today, 11 years later, we have, obviously we have, the grant program itself has yielded more than $3 billion in grants to the fire service for equipment. 3 years later, the SAFER program was developed, and over the last 7 or 8 years, That program has allowed departments to recruit and hire additional personnel, and in the last few years, because of the economic conditions that we faced, has allowed us to not only hire new people, but to serve and have some of the firefighters retained rather than be laid off, furloughed, let go, which of course is critical to maintaining public safety.
It's been noted here that every day, men and women throughout this state owe their lives to our first responders. We wake up every morning to stories of heroism, reading about a firefighter who pulled someone from a burning home or saving someone's life after a car accident. And we go to sleep every night knowing that these brave individuals stand at the ready to risk it all in order to protect us. And firehouses from coast to coast and from Cincinnati to Cleveland not only protect our communities, they provide much needed jobs, as you've heard here today, at a time when so many Ohioans are looking for work. So while many Americans look at our first responders for the services that they provide to our communities, what they often don't see are the teams of people working behind the scenes, people like those of you who are here today, so that they can be sure to get the job done when they are called upon in our times of need. Many of you here are part of that very important effort. You're part of an effort that provides approximately 9,000 jobs in the state of Ohio alone. That is extraordinarily significant. Those of you here today are part of an effort that represents the 6th largest number of jobs for the United States. And you're part of an effort that sustains 17 businesses just in Ohio alone. And it's your hard work for our communities, in tandem with those first responders who go out on those calls, that keep us safe and provide jobs, as we've heard so eloquently stated here today. And it's important for you to know, and that's why I am so honored to be here today.
But I want to go back to my days in Pennsylvania, because that's my first touch to this machine behind me. I grew up in a family where volunteer firefighters who understood what it meant, and I remember as a little boy seeing that truck and saying, one of these days I want to drive that truck. And I never understood why my uncles and all my family were so involved in the fire service until one day my uncle said, Jim, you got to give back. And that's what I've remembered my whole life. You got to give back. When I first came to Ohio, the first thing I did was join the fire department. So I spent the next 4.5 years serving the fire department in Wadsworth and saying and learning all this equipment. So it's great when I'm here. When I'm here and I see the nozzles and I see all the equipment, I've touched it, I've done it, I've used it, I understand it. I still remember the first day I jumped in the driver's seat of one of those vehicles in Wadsworth, Ohio, and started down the road. It was an experience I'll never forget, because I do understand what it means to be a first responder. I understand what we're doing here in creating jobs. And it was one of the reasons that I am so supportive of the business owners here, the business community, the workers, everyone who produces jobs and is part of jobs here in Ohio. But I'm really fond of those that jump in this fire truck and are first responders. Whether you're in the police department, whether you're in the fire department, the first responder's job is an unbelievable job, and I've experienced it. There's nothing like walking into or running into a burning building, not knowing what you're going to get into. And I know many of the firefighters here have experienced that. I still remember the day in a burning building, looking over and seeing a tank that said propane, and wondering, uh-oh, are we in the right place? Or the building that you walk in and that you know there's a young child in there, trying to make sure you can get to that child and get them out of there. So it is personal for me when we talk about firefighters, and it is personal to me when we talk about first responders, because I've been there. I understand it.